Hi sir, my name is Divya and my team members and I will be talking about Google Classroom. So first for the introduction. So Google Classroom is a free web service developed, created by Google for school that aims to simplify creating, distributing and grading system. So about Google Classroom security issues. Google Classroom security issues are typically the results of security, misconfiguration, weak password and human error. For an example, if a user creates a weak password for their Google account login, it exposes that account and all the apps and data it has access to, potentially security issues. So it's a bigger problem for accounts that have high levels of data access because hackers put a premium on attacking those accounts. So there are 4 types of Google security issues to be discussed, and we'll look on to the next one. So for security tactics in operation, the measure necessarily to deny information to the enemy and to ensure that a force retains its freedom of action and is warned or protected against an unexpected encounter with the enemy or an attack. So for resisting attack, we got 3 parts to explain here. The first one is authenticate user and authorized user, which I'll be explaining, and then we have maintain data confidentiality and maintain integrity. So looking at the first one, as you can see here, we have the login page for Google, which by even if you want to log into Google Classroom, you have to use this. So when a user wants to log in into Google Classroom, he or she must have an email as in Gmail and a password. So they will use their Gmail account email or a phone number to log in. Usually, when the user is logging in into a new device, they will receive a security text message to identify whether it's them who is logging in. If someone is trying to log in into the account, they will be notified. After they have been logged in, they will receive an email as well to be clarified that it's them. So the next one, you can see that this is a 2-step authentication. Google uses Facade API pattern, which is also known as Google Cloud. So as you can see here, this is the diagram where we have 2 diagrams. The first one is both also uses Facade, as the first one is Google Classroom going to Facade, and then you can see there's so many users here. And the second one, we're using sequence diagram where the user clicks on the login button, and on Google Classroom they actually enter their email and password. So in the login screen, it actually go to Facade and it finds the password match or not. And then after that, it validates the user and it sends a security text number, as I explained earlier. And then it authenticates for login, and when the login is successful, they can actually use Google Classroom as usual. So for the next part, my team member Olivia will be presenting. Thank you.
Hi sir, so I'm going to move on with maintain data confidentiality, which is resisting attacks also. So Google Classroom is a free web tool created by Google to help schools streamline in the process of exchanging files between teachers and students as a part of the G Suite for education. Every assignments and notes that provided in Google Classrooms will be stored in Google Drive. The terms of Google note that they are completely committed to the protection and safety of data from users and defending users and schools from efforts to compromise it. This is to ensure all the data is used in the Google Classroom is encrypted at several levels. If you look at the image here, this is our sample Google Drive. So usually all the assignments and notes will be stored here, where you can see here. Next page. So this is a sequence diagram where we are going to see how our Google Classroom is maintaining the data confidentiality. Basically, this is a SSL, secure socket layer. So when the client sends hello to the server will send back hello with the cipher suite, server is certificate, server key exchange, which is public key, and also the certificate. Once the server responds, the client will verify the server cert and also check the crypto parameters. Once done, the client will request the server to exchange the key if they want. So and then the server will verify the client cert, and then this is an optional process where the client If they need, they will change the cipher spec, they will request the server, and then the client process will finish. Once the server receives the request, the server will change the cipher spec and the process are done, and then they start to exchange the messages by encrypting it. So that's all from me. I will pass the floor to Olivia.
Okay, hi, my name is Olivia, and for this part, I will be presenting about how Google Classroom maintain its integrity. In Google terms, mentioned that it has implemented industry standard system and procedures to ensure the security and confidentiality of user data and protect against unauthorized access or use of user data. So how this security system works is shown in the diagram below. A simple explanation that can be described about the system is, firstly, user will insert or update the data into Google Classroom. After they submitted the data, the integrity proxy will check whether or not the data put any threats or hazards towards the security of the system. Once everything is good, then only the data will be saved into the database. So yeah, that is all for the resisting attacks. Now we move on to the next slides. So for these slides, I will be presenting on how Google Classroom can detect any attacks. In case you don't already know, Google Classroom has an intrusion detections. As it is seen in the diagram below, Google Classroom, like most other Google services, are cloud-based system that resides in Google server. With the large number of servers and services that Google has, it is imperative that Google has the appropriate intrusion detection tactics in the place in order to spot any intruders of the systems. So yeah, now we will move on to the next point, which will be presented by Joshua. Thank you.
Hi, sir. My name is Joshua, and I'll be presenting on tactics for recovering from attacks. So, one tactic that we have is identification of attacks, which can be done using audit trails. And there are many occasions where a system may have already been attacked by some unwanted users, which may change or destroy the data of the system. And this is where identification of the changes are useful, as once the malicious changes have been identified and contained, proper actions can be taken in order to revert the effects of the attack. One way of identifying whether a breach or attack has occurred is using an audit trail. This allows cybersecurity specialists to monitor the actions that have taken place in the system. An audit trail can be achieved by using an observer pattern to monitor the states of other classes. This can be seen in the diagram where we have the observers and the subject. So the concrete observer would monitor the concrete subject, and this concrete subject could be any of the classes that are present in Google Classroom. So if a user performs any action or creates a post or makes a post, then this concrete observer would be updated on the status of the subject, and this allows the system to keep track of any actions that happen in the system and can be reviewed by the cybersecurity specialists at a later date. And that is all for the identification. And next slide. Okay, so to conclude, when designing any system, it is important to consider the vulnerabilities that the system may have. There are many security tactics which can be used for resisting attacks, detecting attacks, and recovering from attacks. These tactics should be chosen depending on the design needs of the system. Some systems which have sensitive data should consider security tactics to maintain data confidentiality and integrity. Systems which require user identification should seek to implement tactics for authentication and authorization of users. This ensures that access is only given to the right users of the system. And ultimately, every system should be secure from any kind of threat. And that is all from us. Thank you.